I've always had a lot of questions about from Harry Potter. Peeves the Poltergeist. I mean, obviously he's a troublemaker at the school who for some reason is allowed to stay, but he's not quite a ghost because he can touch physical objects, but he can still make himself invisible and fly, and then what is he? And then it gets more confusing with Ron. He has the ghoul in the attic. Is that not a ghost either? I feel like I don't know the difference at all between ghost and ghoul and poltergeist, and so today we are going to get to the bottom of that. Before we get started, I have a quick announcement that our DFTBA store has officially launched. The very first item available for sale are these awesome stickers made for us by the ever so lovely Sabrina Cruz, aka Nerdy and Quirky on YouTube. Definitely go check out her channel if not, and please consider buying some stickers because it's a really cool, fun way to support the channel, and I think they came out awesome. Okay, so for me, growing up as someone who wasn't particularly interested in ghost stories or old monster movies or the horror genre in general, ghost and ghoul and poltergeist were pretty much just interchangeable to me. At best, I thought it was just like a regional thing, like how in the South, if you order an iced tea, you get a sweet tea, and up north, if you order a sweet tea, they're like, well, you know, we have sugar on the table, and you're like, no, that's not the same thing. Sugar doesn't dissolve in water. And if you're sitting there at your computer like, Jay, sugar does dissolve in water, just go up north and try and make your tea sweet tea. Try it. Okay, scratch that. Maybe a better example is just like Bigfoot versus Sasquatch versus Yeti versus Abominable Snowman. All pretty much the same thing, right? Or maybe not. Maybe I just started a whole separate argument in the towel section. In any case, in the world of Harry Potter, all three are present and are different things, but it's kind of hard to tell the difference between all of them. Wizards themselves even have a hard time. You can see in the Prisoner of Azkaban movie on the Marauders map a classroom called Ghoul Studies, which on the Harry Potter wiki page, which I know is super official, says that what they study in there is the difference between ghouls, ghosts, and poltergeists, which I thought was crazy because that was exactly what I was doing this video on. Let's start with poltergeist. In regular folklore, poltergeist is German for noisy ghost, and they are considered a type of ghost typically responsible for physical disturbances. They can do things like knock stuff over or like even pinching or biting. Probably the most famous depiction of poltergeists, other than Peeves himself, who actually isn't present in any of the Harry Potter movies, is from the 1982 movie Poltergeist, where the ghosts are actually quite very much aggressive. That version has them abducting children, possessing clown dolls, knocking over glasses of milk, bringing up dead skeletons. I mean, you get the picture. J.K. Rowling's understanding of poltergeist, though, is much different. In a recently released ebook on Pottermore, short stories from Hogwarts of Power, Politics, and Pesky Poltergeists, she describes that even though poltergeists are typically described as ghosts, they are in fact not. Many accounts of poltergeists in folklore have a strong association with adolescents and teenagers, so to J.K. Rowling, it only made sense that a poltergeist would be generated in a school full of teenage witches and wizards. And generated is the key word. Peeves is not actually a ghost at all. He is literally a physical manifestation of all of the mischievousness and trickery of generations of witches and wizards at Hogwarts, which I think is a freaking awesome explanation. I mean, it sort of explains why he's able to, you know, handle physical objects, but also why he kind of has a lot of ghostly qualities too. He's sort of somewhere in between. But so then where does that leave ghosts? Ghosts in Harry Potter, as you probably are aware, are actually the transparent imprint of a deceased witch or wizard, but only witch or wizard. Muggles cannot come back as ghosts. Although coming back is maybe not the best phrase, as the ghosts in Harry Potter aren't really coming back from the dead because they didn't really ever pass on. This means when people ask them what it's like to die, they are unable to give very satisfactory answers because they did it wrong. Unlike poltergeists, they cannot interact with any physical surroundings, but that doesn't mean they don't have any effect on their physical surroundings. The air around them is always a lot colder, and even though they can pass through things without causing any harm to themselves, they do cause disturbances in air, fire, and water. Which brings us to ghouls. Turns out comparing ghosts and ghouls in my head was just so totally not even the same thing at all. Nope. Ghouls come from Arabian folk folklore, where they are literally desert-dwelling demons who can shapeshift into different animals, but are most commonly associated with hyenas. Which is not how I have ever thought of ghouls, but apparently what they do is lure people into the desert where they then kill them and eat them. More modern folklore, on the other hand, describes them a lot more like zombies in terms of them being some sort of undead monster largely associated with graveyards. Harry Potter's version of a ghoul, though, is different still, and if you want a full description, I would recommend Newt Scamander's Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Obviously. According to Newt, ghouls are not particularly dangerous creatures. Although, to be fair, I'm not sure Newt would describe like any creature as particularly dangerous. But really, they're nothing more than roughly human-sized, ogre-esque-like creatures who are dim-witted and buck-toothed and don't really harm anything. Mostly, they just want to be left alone and so often find their ways into the attics or barns of witches and wizards where they can survive off moths and spiders, which sounds like such a brilliant existence, if you ask me. And surprisingly, they are not seen really as a nuisance by witches and wizards who often adopt them as pets or, and I quote, talking points. Oh, what is that lumbering I hear? Do you have a ghoul upstairs? Yes, that is my ghoul. That is my actual monster living in my attic that I keep around for... yeah, I would say get rid of them. But that does bring me to my final question of the day, now that we know the difference between all three of these things, is if Peeves is such a troublemaker, why do they let him stick around Hogwarts? And the answer is, because mostly there is not much they can do. There have been attempts over the years to get rid of him, but none in over a century. Because of the nature in which he was created, which is to say generated by the mischievousness of the students, and, you know, just how many generations of students have come through Hogwarts, he is one of the most notorious poltergeists in all of the world. The last person to try and expel him from the castle was a caretaker named Rancorous Carp, who tried to trap him in a large glass bell jar that had a bunch of containment spells worked into it. He tried to lure Peeves into a particular place by using a bunch of weapons he thought Peeves would find irresistible. He was right about the weapons, not about the glass jar. Peeves got the weapons and easily escaped the jar, and then wreaked havoc, and everyone had to leave the castle for 3 days. It was a big catastrophe. Now, personally, I feel like Dumbledore himself probably could have found a way to get rid of Peeves, but I think he, like many of the students, eventually grow fond of Peeves and see him as much a part of the experience of attending Hogwarts as the moving staircases. So, that's why Peeves remains there to this day. Or at least that's the shorthand version of it. If you want to get a much more detailed telling of it, I recommend you check out the ebook on Pottermore. Lots of other really cool, interesting stories in there as well. Then my question for you and everybody else is, who is your favorite non-human character from Harry Potter? Let me know in the towel section down below. These socks are amazing! Guys, thanks for watching. As always, please remember to like this video if you haven't already, and subscribe so you don't miss any future Harry Potter content. And don't forget to check out dftbi.com for our new awesome sticker pack. If you want to see some more Harry Potter videos though, I recommend this one where we discuss whether or not Dumbledore has a Horcrux. Hint, he took